Hi everyone, this is Neil Malik from Knack Training, bringing you Everyday Office video number 2, talking about index and match. Now if you watched the previous video, you know that our first video was about Vlookup, but Vlookup will very often have limitations that index and match, those are two separate functions, the index function and the match function working together, can do better, more dynamically or more powerfully than Vlookup can. And it's one of those things where once somebody gets really good with Excel, they tend to leave VLOOKUP behind and just use index and match in lieu of it. So how does index and match work? Well, like I said, index and match are two functions that work together. So let's talk about the match function first. It's easy to see what the match function does. The match function allows you to say, hey, you know what? I'm looking for a column called Office. And when you say that you're looking for a column called Office, you could tell it that there is a set of cells up here at the top of the table that could have the word Office in it. Go look for it. And Match will say, oh yeah, I found Office in the 5th column right over here. Or you could say, oh, I'm looking for a specific employee ID number. I want you to look down the list of ID numbers until you find DNR 1863. And Match will be flexible and it'll look look vertically down a list and it'll say, oh, it's in the 7th position in that column. So you can see where this complements what VLOOKUP does very well. VLOOKUP says, if you tell me what to look for, I'll always look for it in that first column of data. But the match function, you can basically tell it any row or any column of data and say, go look for this thing and tell me where it is. But by itself, it doesn't actually return any interesting information. It just tells you what the position is. So it'll return the number 5 or the number 7. That's why you need to use the index function, because the index function says, if you tell me what column we're going to, and if you tell me what row we're going to, I can tell you what's there. So using index and match together can find you the intersection of the column and the row that you're interested in. So why do we need index and match instead of VLOOKUP? Well, one of the easiest ways to see this is just that VLOOKUP can only look in the leftmost column of the data for a matching ID number. If you're looking in a different column and you want to go left back to a set of data you want to return, you just can't do it. Index and match can easily do that. And there's a lot of different ways that index and match can be pieced together with other functions that can make some really interesting things happen. For those of you who want to check out this spreadsheet and follow along with me as I do these next few exercises, go ahead and hit the blog post link down in the description and you'll see where you can download this spreadsheet. So let's start off with just understanding the match function first. As you can see, I'm here on the match function tab, and we could definitely see a situation where we need to be able to find where region 3 is, and we need to be able to find out where quarter 4 is. The problem is that right now we're not going to get down to this intersection and find the $50,000 that's there. All we're going to do is say what column quarter 4 is in and what row region 3 is in. In a minute here, we're going to actually use that information though. So let's start off in cell C3 and find the match function. If we go to the Formulas tab at the top of the screen, the match function is one of the lookup and reference functions, and you can find match right there. Match asks you for 3 pieces of information. The first is what we're interested in, what the value is that we're looking for. The lookup value in this case is region 3. And the array is, again, where it is nice and flexible. Where VLOOKUP would only look in the column, we could look in any row or any column we want, but in this situation we are actually looking in the first column. So go ahead and find region 3 somewhere in this column of data from E4 to E11. Now you can notice that it automatically detects that it's in the 3rd row, but we do want to make sure that we set up the match type appropriately. 0 is how you find an exact match. 1 is how you find a close match without going over, and -1 is how you find a close match without going under a value. So go ahead and type in 0 here to make sure that you're always finding region 3 and not something that's close to region 3. And then you hit OK. And of course, region 3 is in the 3rd position. But when I switch region 3 to region 6, it tells me region 6 is in the 6th position. So we can go ahead and do the exact same thing for the quarters. Again, using the lookup and reference drop-down menu and picking match, we could say look for quarter 4 in the lookup array from quarter 1 across to quarter 4, that's F3 through I3, and with a 0 in the match type box, find an exact match. Then hit OK. And quarter 4 is in the 4th position, and we switch to quarter 2, that's in the 2nd position. Now, a really easy way to leverage this is to put it into the Vlookup function. So for those of you who watched yesterday's video, you've seen this little exercise here where we found the phone number column. The problem is that when you use a Vlookup function, right here in the Vlookup, it asks you what column of information you want to get back. And you technically just have to type a number in here. But now that we know that the match function is available to us, we should be able to look up the phone number column. And by looking up the phone number column and returning the number 6, we can make it flexible so that in the future we could look for something else, or we could find it in a different column number if that was relevant. So let's try this out. I want to do essentially a Vlookup function for Little Rock and return the phone number. So that is the Formulas tab to Lookup and Reference to Vlookup. The lookup value is Little Rock, and the table array is from M8 down and across to R14. But this is where it gets interesting. Instead of typing the number 6 in manually for the column index number, I type in the word match with an open parentheses. Now, once you get good with the match function, you could just continue to type out the different arguments that go into the match function. But if you're not good with it yet, this is a good place to go ahead and click on the word match up in the formula bar so that the box here, the dialog box, switches over to the function arguments for the match function instead of Vlookup. Okay, so what is the value we're looking for? If I'm looking for what column I'm interested in, the lookup value is the words phone number right up here at the top. And the array of cells that could say phone number in them says M7 across to R7. And then we type in a 0 so that we find an exact match, not a close match without going over. And we're done with the match function, but we still need to make sure that we have completed the Vlookup function. So we take our mouse, click on the word Vlookup right up here in the formula bar, and we can see here that we need to finish off by filling in the range lookup. And again, we want to find an exact match, so we type in false. Click OK, and we find the exact same information here, 501, 501. That seems perfectly reasonable. So it doesn't seem like there's any need for us to have done those extra steps of putting the match function in. But watch how useful this is. If I'm no longer looking for phone number, but now I'm looking for what state we're interested in, if I type the word state into cell N3, just like that, it tells me, oh, Little Rock is in Arkansas. And when I type in address, it tells me that the address of the office in Little Rock is 2674 3rd Street. And when I switch it back to phone number, it tells me what the phone number of that location is. So nesting the match function into the Vlookup function allows you to find whatever piece of data is relevant to you, which is really helpful. Let's take a look at one more example of using the match function. So the match function finds either an exact match or a close match without going over or a close match without going under. If in this event we have a set of consultants that we can use to fulfill something for a client, and the client's told us what their budget is, now we need to find who the best consultant is for the money. So we go in here and we look for, using the match function, which consultant we're interested in. Now, as a point of reference here, this is just going to get to the right row of data. It's not going to tell you who that is. That's going to be the part of the index function in just a second. And secondly, anytime that you want to find the close enough match without going over, you always want to have your salary sorted in ascending order. So you can go to the Data tab at the top of the screen and use the A to Z button to put these consultants into ascending order. And I can look down this list and I can see right here that I have a junior consultant available for $84,000 and a senior consultant available for $89,000. So if everything goes according to plan, we should find this junior consultant DNA 4514. Let's see whether that works or not. I go up here to find who the consultant is. I go up here to the Formulas tab at the top of the screen, use my Lookup and Reference drop-down menu, and pick Match. So I'm looking for the value of $88,000, cell W3, in the array that lists from AA4 all the way down to AA107. And to make sure that I'm finding a close match without going over, I type in the number 1, and it tells me that the closest match without going over is in the 76th position. Click OK. And let's just go ahead and check this out. If I highlight all the entries down to 84,000, I can look in the bottom right-hand corner and I can see that the total count here comes to 76. So it did in fact find the right consultant. It's just a matter of having a function that will return the value from that location. So let's see how that would work with the index function. So if I go over here to my Index tab, notice here that I have a set of products, and I can sort those products by what their search traffic is, their conversion percentage, the number of sales, the revenue, or the profit margin. And if I'm looking for who the best or the worst or any other position in there happens to be, I should be able to find that value. So the index function tells you what is at the location you're interested in. We go to the Formulas tab at the top of the screen, go to the Lookup and Reference drop-down menu, and pick Index. Then click OK. And the array that we want here is all the products. We're going to highlight from Licix down to Etio. And the row number that we're interested in is the value right here for the rank. Then click OK. And you can see that it immediately returns Licix because Licix is in the first position. Let's say that I sort by the number of sales. I'll go over here to the Sales column, and on my Data tab, I'll sort Z to A, so the highest number of sales goes to the top. So now the top product is Spectriva, and as you can see here, Spectriva is the thing that's returned. If I sort by profit margin, Z to A, you can see that the first position is Focus. If I say I want the fourth highest profit margin, it tells me that's Licix. And when I go to search traffic and sort, it tells me the fourth highest in search traffic is Spectriva. So that's Index's function. If you tell it how far to go, it'll tell you what's there. So how do these work together? Well, an easy way to see this is that if you have a set of data where the thing you want is on the left and the thing that you know already is on the right, you can look from right to left as opposed to what Vlookup does, left to right. Now, I know a lot of people will look at this data set and say, if you're looking for what the account number is and you know what the account name is, all you have to do is copy account number to the right of account name, and that'll work just fine. But the problem is that as data changes, as you get this spreadsheet dumped from different databases, as you get it from different coworkers, this can be so flexible and so dynamic that taking the time out to consistently rearrange the columns to match up with your Vlookup function is really frustrating. So it's better to know that you have a function that can just be flexible and can handle whatever set of data happens to be handed to you. So in this case, if I'm looking for what the account number is for official and admin services, I'm hoping that it'll bring back the 521010.01. Let's see if it'll do that. So I'll go here to cell B4, and I need to insert the match function into the index function. Let's try that out. In cell B4, I go to the Formulas tab, I go to Lookup and Reference, and I choose Index. Because again, the index function's job is to tell you what the value is at the location you're interested in. So I go to Index, and I click OK, because it's an array of cells that I'm interested in. And it's asking me where the table is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I want you to go from cell H4 across to cell I4 and down to cell I35. Now, as a point of reference, I'm about to autofill this down in the expense table over here on the left. So I'm going to use the F4 keyboard shortcut to make sure that those references are locked in. Now, this is where the flexibility comes into play. What row am I supposed to go down to? Well, I'm supposed to go down to the row that says official or admin services in the I column so that I can tell you what's in the H column. So that is the match function. I put the match function into the row number box. And remember, if you don't really know how the match function works, simply take your mouse, click on the word match right up here at the top, and tell it what to look for and where to find it. So the lookup value is official or admin services in cell A4. The lookup array is the column of values under account names. So that's I4 down to I35. Those are all the different account names that it could be in. Make sure that you tap the F4 key on the keyboard to lock that reference down and use a 0 to find an exact match. And you can see that it finds that official and admin services is in position number 1. Now, to finish off the index function, I take my mouse and click on the word index up here at the top, and I can see that I'm asked for the column number. Now, if I don't put a column number in, it'll just find the first column, and that's fine, or I could type the number 1 in. But you also know that I can use the match function horizontally to find a match for account number. So I'll use the match function a second time. I'll click on the word match up here in the formula bar. The lookup value that I'm interested in is account number, which is in cell B3. Now, as I autofill this down, I definitely don't want account number to slide around, so I'll use my F4 key to lock that down. The lookup array is from H3 across to I3. And again, use the F4 key to lock that down. And lastly, I type in a 0 to find an exact match. Now, this might sound silly in a little table that has 2 columns in it. But if I'm looking for this data in the 50th column of 150 columns, this becomes a lot more useful. I finish my process by clicking on Index right up here at the top, and there it is. If you tell me to go down to the first row and then match it up with the first column, click OK. There is the account number for official and admin services. And I autofill this down, and you can see all the account numbers matching with the account numbers in this column over here on the left. And now for the home stretch, let's go across and zoom out a little bit so you guys can see this a little bit more clearly. Okay, so let's start off with this little table right here. So as you can see, I've got a table full of property sales. We've got the state, the country, the region, the revenue of each of those different sales. And so what I did was I came over here to the right and I made myself a table that has the revenue based off of the state or province, right? So there's a column of all the states and provinces. There's January and February and March and April and May. And then I went one step further. Come over here, and as you can see, I made a little table that said, here is the average revenue by month, and then here is some other value. And maybe I'm doing California, or maybe I'm doing any of these other options, or Florida, Hawaii, etc. What I want is to be able to chart the values for California or the values for Florida alongside the average values of the revenue for the overall. So here's how I make that happen. I'm going to use the index and match functions to look up the value that matches with California with January of 2017 and then with California for February of 2017. So I go to this cell here on this table. I've got California on the left. I've got January 2017 above. I'm going to go to my Formulas tab to look up and reference and pick index, just like before. Click OK. And the array of cells that might hold my values are from, let's go over here to the left, from the first January value right here to the last December value and all the way down to the bottom. So that is V2 through AG56 right there. Now let's go ahead and lock that down using the F4 keyboard shortcut just to be safe. Now, what row of those values are we interested in? Well, I'm looking for California. So I go over here to the row number. I type in match and open parentheses. Let's click up on the word match up at the top in order to change the function arguments to the match function's arguments. The lookup value is California, CA right there. Again, let's lock that down with the F4 key just to be safe. And actually, I'm about to autofill this across to the right, so that actually does need to be locked down. Then the lookup array. Where are all the states and provinces listed? Well, the states and provinces are listed over here in the U column between U2 and U56. Again, hit F4 to lock that down. And make sure that we find an exact match by typing a 0 in as the match type. So I've told it what row of the data to go to, but now I need to tell it to go find the January data specifically. So I go back to my index function up here at the top, click on index, and I need to tell it which column to look for. Again, I use the match function and open parentheses, click on the word match up above, and what value am I looking for here? Well, to tell it what column I'm interested in, the lookup value is January of 2017 in AJ1 right up there at the top. Now, we distinctly don't want to lock this down because as we autofill to the right, we want it to look at February, and then we autofill to the right, we want it to look at March, and then autofill to the right, and we want it to look at April. So then the lookup array, these are the values that could hold January, February, March, and April. So that's V1 all the way across to AG1 here. But this definitely does need to be locked down. So I tap F4 to lock that down and type in 0 to find an exact match. And hopefully it tells me that January of 2017 is the first entry. In fact, it does. I click back on index. And if everything is right, so California is the 7th state or province, that sounds about right. And January of 2017 is the first month, that's correct. I click OK. It finds me the value for California. Here we go. So we can see that the average revenue that we generate across all the states and provinces is only $340,000, but California comes in at $2.5 million. And so I autofill this across to all the other states. There we go. And we can go ahead and auto-fit these. Lovely. So there it is. There's California's values dwarfing the average values. But I go over here to cell AI3, and on the drop-down menu, maybe I switch to Connecticut. And Connecticut is maybe more in line with the averages. Maybe I switch it to Florida. And maybe Florida's averages are higher, or Florida's totals are higher than the average. Or maybe I switch it to Idaho, and Idaho is less than the average. Maybe I switch it to Kentucky or Minnesota. And I can see that by using index and match, I'm able to dynamically grab the revenue values for any month I want and put them right into that chart. Let's zoom out so we can see this beautifully in action here. Use the drop-down menu, North Carolina, New Jersey, New Mexico, etc. So what we've seen here is that using the match function allows you to go around a set of data either horizontally or vertically or both in situations where you can combine those two together to find exactly the piece of data that you're interested in and bring it in dynamically. Now, something I've been using across this exercise is this drop-down menu idea, and you'll be able to see this in coming exercises so that you can build this dynamically for yourself as well. So the question of the day is, what do you think? Are you going to be using index and match instead of Vlookup? Are you going to be using it to supplement what Vlookup already does? If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe it, share it to anybody else you think might find it valuable. Thanks, and have a great day.